Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Kamma DAF Kufav. We are holding right on top of the Amid at the first line. V'ha'amar ilfa. We begin with a kasha. At the end of yesterday's DAF, Rav Sheshes tells us, HaKaifer b'pikadan, if one denies having been entrusted with an item, so he was a shomer, and he denies ever having gotten that item, that turns him into a gazlan, into a thief, and he is chayav ba'insin, which means that he's fully responsible for this item that he really has under his care. And even if an accident happens, he's responsible just like any ganav. So this simple, verbal declaration, this denial, is sufficient to transform him from a friendly fellow, a trusted fellow, into a gazlan. Pretty rapid change of events, change of titles. So simply being kaifer b'pikadin, even without, making a shvua and resorting to, formal channels, kaifer b'pikadin turns into a gazlan. Asks the Gemara, really? Right on top. Va'amar ilfa. Didn't ilfa tell us? Shvua koina. Only by making a shvua do you actually, acquire. And the Gemara figures he meant to say that by denying ever having been given the item, and you add a shvua to the mix, I swear as such, only then do you turn into a gazlan. You have formally established yourself as a gazlan, in which case you now are fully responsible for that item under your care like any other ganav. Only shvua does that, but just a simple, verbal denial doesn't. And so that's the kasha. Shvua kaina. Shvua hu de kanya. Apparently only a shvua can accomplish that. Kinyan. Aval kfir like kanya, but simply denying doesn't. Hachanami de kaima ba'agam. Oh. Says the Gemara, just like yesterday we discussed, different situations and the difference between a fellow who denies being in possession of an item which is right here, so he has no excuse for denying, versus, and that's the case of Rav Sheshes. At that point, he turns into a gazlan because there's no alibi, there's no excuse for it, as opposed to a case where it's sitting out in the agam, in the swamp. It's an expression meaning it's not here, and he has to go find it until he fetches it. He wants to have some time. It's sort of like a delay tactic. Here as well, when ilfa tells us that without a shvua, he doesn't really turn into a gazlan, that's because we're speaking that the item is not, accessible, so he's just using it as a delay tactic, and we don't really hold it so much against him. Here is saying another option to explain ilfa's halacha, shvua koina, a totally different thing, in a totally different context. My shvua koina. You know what that means? It means like this, that sometimes you can have a fellow who was entrusted with an item, and he went through some sort of denial process, and he made a shvua to the owner, indicating that that he has no knowledge of this item or this of this claim. That shvua will give it to him. Listen to this. Reuben approaches Shimon. Look, where's my money that I gave you? He says, what are you talking about? And he gets up and he makes a shvua, and soon we're going to learn that he made the shvua in Bezdin. So he formally denied, he officially denied ever, having been entrusted with the item, whether he never got it, whether, he claims that it was lost. Following which, Edom show up and say, what are you talking? You have the money right there. Potter. This fellow no longer has to repay his owner. He doesn't have to repay this depositor. Why? Listen to this. The pasuk there is speaking about a shomer who swears to defend his position, to exempt himself. The owner will sort of take. What's he taking? He's not taking his money back. Shvua is not just, not just words. It's something that the owner imposes on the on the shomer. He forces him to make that shvua, and once the shomer complies and submits himself to a shvua, it's as though the owner got what he needed. He cashed in on his rights, so to speak. He got the shvua, right? He was assured of the the story. He was basically provided, right, by the shomer with a shvua to confirm the story, and that's it. So now the shomer no longer has to pay, even though in reality he was lying, and it's been discovered that the whole thing was an untruth. Right, the Edom came and testified as such. It's over. He already granted the owner what he needed, what he asked for. He gave him a shvua. It's over. And that's all Ilfa meant. He's talking about this case where a fellow is going to make a shvua, and that exempts him from further payment. Now comes the whole sugya to elaborate on this and explain exactly when and how and where is this concept applied. Only in very limited situations. Let's go back to the halacha which we just learned. Look, remember I gave you $1 million as a deposit. The other fellow totally denies. He swore as such, but Edom came and testified differently. He no longer has to pay. Shenemar, as we learned, since the owner received, so to speak, his shvua, he received that sort of assurance that came with a shvua. Shuv ein mishal and mamein, the other fellow no longer has to pay. Amar Rav, Mistaber Milsei the Rab b'mulva. It's probable, it's logical, that this chiddush of Rav to exempt a fellow just because he swore is specific bil milva. When it's in discussion regarding a loan. I lent you the money. No, I never got the money. Because loan money is meant to be spent. It's never intact. As soon as I give him the $1 million, even if the money's right here, it's his to spend. So there, it's a matter of repayment. Tashlumin happens, right? So once he swears to me, that exempts him from tashlumin, says Rashi. It says, v'lokach ba'alav v'lo yishalim. The shvua is sort of in place. It substitutes for tashlumin. Aval pikadin b'shusi demarikai. But suppose it's just a simple deposit. You don't repay a deposit. You return the deposit. The concept of tashlumin is inapplicable to pikadin. B'shusi demarikai. It's always in the possession, the hands, so to speak, of the owner, of the depositor. Right? As Rashi explains again, there's no point of repayment. Give it back to me. Return it to me. So this idea doesn't apply. You can swear from today till tomorrow. You still have to give me back my item. It exempts you from repayments. It exempts you from tashlumin. But not if you're holding on to my item. Of course, then I get it back. But, and this is what Rava says, it's mistaber to make that distinction. But in the name of Hashem, meaning he, declared in a lashon of like a shvua. I promise you, Amar Rav afilu pikaden. Truthfully, Rav actually applied this point even to a pikaden. Why the chiksiv kra? Because actually this pasuk, which is the source of Rav's halacha, v'lokach ba'alav v'lo yisham. Guess what? B'pikaden ksiv. It's speaking about a pikaden. You also Rav Nachman. V'kamma la'ashmata. So Nachman was sitting and saying over the halacha the name of Rav. Right? So if a person was nishba on a pikadon, he's kind of the pikadon, he doesn't have to return it. Eisvei Rav Achav Amar Yumi, he has to kashal Rav Nachman. So we have a Mishnah. Masechah Shavuos. Heicham pikdoini. Sir, where's my pikadon? Amar lies, he says, Avad, sorry, it got lost. I don't have it. Mashbiach ani. Okay, I'm imposing a shvua on you. V'amar, the other fellow responds, Amen, yeah, I'm accepting the shvua. Turns out that he's lying. Edom come and testify that he himself ate, if it's the food or consumed the item. So what happens? Mishalim misakeren. So he has to pay the actual principal, meaning the actual value for what he took. But there's no added, chaymesh, all that only happens in the next case. If the fellow turned around and admitted on his own, look, I'm sorry, then it adds the other, components as well. It triggers this triple process, Mishalem Keren, right? V'chaimish, the added fifth, V'asham, and the karva. So clearly, in the first halacha we see that even if the fellow made a shvua, and then it was followed by the testimony of the Eidim, he'll have to pay. The shvua is not going to give him any rights. So, firstly, we have to remember that, of course, Rav was only speaking in a case where Eidim come and prove him wrong. But if he himself is Maida, of course he still has to pay, even though he made a shvua. And Rashi points this out, because the pasuk speaks about a person returning an item after he was already nishban, he was Maida. So there's no question that by a Maida, this whole doesn't apply. But in terms of obligating him in the formal system, through the formal channels of the Bezdin, by way of the Eidim obligating him to pay, that doesn't work, because once he exempted himself with the shvua, it's over. Case closed. And here we see otherwise. Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman responded to him, let me answer your question. Hachmai Eskina was speaking, the reason why the shvua doesn't close the case, sure, the Shemi made a shvua to the Baalim, but it was outside of Bezdin, so it's not a formal shvua, and therefore it doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't exempt him from payment. Amar Leisi, he responded, if that's the case, that we're speaking about a an informal shvua, what about the next part of the Mishnah? Where's my pikatim? Amar Lo Nignav, he says, sorry, it was stolen. So here, instead of it was lost, it was stolen. Okay? Mashbiachani. Okay, I'm making a shvua with you, and he receives the shvua, he consents to it. The Eidim come along and say, well, you yourself, you're the Ganav, you stole it. That triggers a double payment, because he becomes like a regular Ganav who pays kefil, right? But if he should admit on his own without the Eidim, it triggers the triple process, Mishalem Keren, right? V'chaimish v'asham. Now, so again, the Shomer denied, right? He said it was stolen. The Eidim came and proved them wrong. He has to pay kefil. Now, if the shvua occurred outside of Bezdin, chutz lebezdin, mi'ika kefil. Why would the shomer pay kefil? Right? The whole idea of the shomer having to pay kefil because he pretended the item was stolen and he himself turned out to be the Ganav, that's only applicable when it was via an official Bezdin process, a court process. But if he swore outside of Bezdin, why would he have to pay kefil? So clearly, the Mishnah is speaking where the shvua occurs inside Bezdin. And if so, why in the first case, when he claimed that it was lost, and he swore to prove it, and it was proven a liar, why will he have to pay? According to Rav, shvua exempts you from payment. Armalesi, he responds like this. Simply speaking, I could just answer you very simply. I have the option of answering that Reisha chutz lebezdin, v'seifa bebezdin. The Mishnah is split into two cases. Part one was outside of Bezdin, and therefore the shvua doesn't really carry that same weight. Part B was in Bezdin. But shinui dechika, a forced, improbable solution. Loy mishanina l'cha. I don't want to propose that to you. Part A is there, part B is here. You know what? Either bezdin. Perhaps both parts of the Mishnah are discussing a shvua occurring inside of bezdin, but there's still a difference. In part A of the Mishnah, where the shvua doesn't have this, that same legal effect, is speaking where rather than the bezdin imposing the shvua on the shomer, he jumped. Just an expression, means he self-initiated the shvua. That doesn't really carry such legal weight. Whereas part 2 of the Mishnah speaking like kafatz. It wasn't self-initiated, rather imposed by the Bezdin. So it was a formal official shvua which triggers, that appropriate consequence. The Rav Leisvirlach. I know that you don't really conform to Rav's halacha that a shvua can substitute for repayment. You don't really hold to this whole thing. So why are you going to such great extent to defend Rav's opinion? And you're trying to answer the Mishnayos and fit it according to Rav. Mashkuni nafshach. Lashon of mashka, and like a collateral. You're sort of sticking your neck out at the Rav to protect Rav's opinion. Lamalach, why are you doing that? Amalei says, well, it's Torah, lefrushel the Rav. I'm just trying to explain Rav. The Rav hachim etaris l'masnisim. Rav would, explain the Mishnahs in this fashion. Okay, so perhaps personally I don't agree with it, but I still want to protect Rav's opinion and explain things accordingly. Asks the Gemara, v'harav kroka amar. Now, how could anybody disagree with Rav that the shamer is providing the shvuah is as though he provided payment? It exempts him from further tashlumin. Rav's coming from a pasuk. But Rav kroka amar, right? It says v'lokach ba'alav. The ba'alim accepts the shvuah v'lo yishal. That exempts the shamer from further liability, right? Amri said the answer is like this. We have a different application for that same pasuk. We have an alternate pshat. Is coming to tell you a general rule. Whenever a person makes a shvuah in the context of a din Torah, typically it's to swear and exempt yourself from further payment. That's what it's coming for. And that's learned from the pasuk. Let him take my shvuah, and that exempts me from payment. Indicative of the fact that the shvuah is being presented by the fellow who should be paying. Here, take my shvuah and exempt me from further payment. That's typically what a shvuah is meant to accomplish, as opposed to the claimer coming and making a shvuah to extract money. That's not, the conventional shvuah application. So bottom line, has two applications. Either to teach you that the payee is meant to be making the shvuah, or according to Rav, once you make a shvuah, you're patur from further payment. Here comes another kasha on Rav from another Mishnah. Masa of Rav Amnuna, who was a Talmud of Rav. Okay, we have a Mishnah Masechah Shvuos. Ishbiya alav chamisha pamim. Okay, where's my pikadim? I don't have it. He makes a shvuah on Sunday, makes another shvuah on Monday, Tuesday again, I don't have it, his promises, Wednesday, another oath. Bein b'fnei bezin, ubein shalei b'fnei bezin, whether it was in the presence of the bezin or whether or not, whether it was a formal, official shvuah or not. V'kafar olav, and all 5 times he denied this monetary claim, and then of course he turned around and admitted to all 5. Chayav al kol achas v'achas. So he's liable to each one, which basically means he has to bring a korban, etc., to address all 5 false oaths. Now, questions like this: why? Why is he chayiv per denial? Once he denied on Sunday, it's over. He's patur. So why would Monday's additional denial with additional shvuah trigger another process of the chaymesh and the asham? He's not really denying any monetary claim. It's no longer alive anymore. It's been sort of put into dormant state since yesterday's denial. There's no kfiras mamay. B'amar Shimon, matam. You know why? Because theoretically, he can still reawaken that claim. Shimon, who denied on Sunday, can come around and say, "You know what? I'm sorry. It was just a misspeak. I didn't. I really owe you the money." And Monday's denial accomplishes a new denial, right? So theoretically, every additional denial really adds another layer of denial, because theoretically you could have admitted right now and reawakened the claim. Okay? Now, so first of all, what do we see from here? That, even though he made a shvuah, the claim is still, in some realm, it's still there, it's still active, it's still alive. Right? That's why we consider the subsequent denials as monetary denials, right? Now, isn't this a kasha on Rav, who says once you make a shvuah, you're out, you're done, case closed? Now, here you can't suggest that it wasn't a formal official shvua, he just, self-initiated it without the Bezdin imposing it on him, so it doesn't have the same value. You can't say that. Hishbiel of Katani, it says that he imposed it on the fellow. It was imposed. Chutz leBezdin lematzas amrus, you can't suggest that it took place outside of Bezdin, so again, it doesn't have the same value. Bifnei Bezdin Katani. Mishnah says it was in front of Bezdin. That's a kash. Kash amra. Rabbi Yirmiyah, who presented this question, Rav Amnun, who presented the kasha, he himself provided an answer. He's studying Katani. You're right, the Mishnah is not speaking about one and the same case. It's sort of describing different scenarios, which in either case explains why the shvua doesn't have that same effect, because it's not really an official shvua. Ishbi'alav chutz leBezdin. Either Ishbi'alav means outside of Bezdin, so it was externally imposed, but it was outside of Bezdin, so it's not an official shvua. And the other part of the Mishnah, which describes the shvua taking place in the Bezdin, uve Bezdin kafatz. He jumped out ahead and self-initiated it. So, in either case, we don't have both components imposed by Bezdin. It was either imposed, but not by Bezdin. It was either in Bezdin, but not imposed. That's why the shvua does not exempt him. It doesn't lay the case to rest. It's still theoretically alive and active, in which case the subsequent shvuos are considered shvuos to deny a monetary claim. Says the Masiv Rabba. Here comes another kasha on Rabba. This is a brisa. Balabayis sheton tanas ganav b'pikodim. Okay, where's my cow that I entrusted you with? Well, sorry, it was stolen. V'nish Bava Kamma, he swore falsely and he admitted that he was just lying. Ubo Edom, the Edom came. And likewise, testified that this fellow himself stole the cow. So what's his status? So we have an admission and a testimony, by the way of the Edom. So what happened first? If the Haidah came before the Edom, so then it triggers that triple process, Mishal, Keren, B'chaimesh V'Asham. But the Haidah only came after the Edom. They came first. Mishal Tashlamei Kefel V'Asham. He pays double because he was caught red-handed. He turns into the Ganav because he was established as a Ganav by the Edom, and he pays an Asham because of his self-admission that followed the Edom. Now, the question is like this. Once he made the shvua, the initial shvua, how can we obligate him any further? I thought a shvua puts things to rest. You can't apply any of the other elements of chutz lebezdin or kafatz. Why? Kefel katani. The brisa refers to kefel, which is a payment that only happens due to a formal, in bezdin shvua. So once that happened, how could you even impose any payments on him? According to Rav, shvua ends the story. Elama Rav, we have to remember something very important. Rav's halacha does not apply to a toyin tanas ganav, to a shomer who alleged robbery, and he himself is the robber. Elama Rav kol hoida kol hoida. First of all, you should know like this. Kol hoida, if the shomer turns around and admits his guilt, lo yishna toyin tanas avad, v'lo yishna toyin tanas ganav, lo amarav. Irrespective of whether he had initially claimed that it was lost or stolen, but now he's coming around admitting, of course, he's fully liable. Doksivis vada, the boish no mekaren b'chaimesh. Pasuk speaks about this very fellow who swore falsely and came around and admitted b'isvad. He's got to go through the whole system. Karen b'chaimesh, right? Likewise, says Rav, you should know, toyin tanas ganav. If the shomer initially pretended it was stolen from him, Edom came and told us that he stole it, here as well, Rav doesn't apply his halacha nami, lo yama Rav. The pasuk speaks about this very case. A toyin tanas ganav pays kefil. Rav's chiddush that shvua puts the case, lays the case to rest, is only in a very specific case. Where's my cow? got lost. He swore. He never admitted. As such, Ubo Edom. Now, Edom come and try to obligate. Here comes Rav and says, hold it. You're trying to criminalize him through the formal official channels. Hold it. He's done with that. He made a shvua. Case is closed. Court session is over. Okay, so let's just recap. Take the shvua and leave him alone. That's Rav's chiddush, but only in one very specific case, such as, where's my cow? Sorry, I never got it, or it was lost. Shvua, yeah. He walks away. Edom come and try to prove him wrong. It's too late. Case closed. Court session is over. I already got his shvua. That's instead of payment. But in any other case, such as if he himself turns around and admits guilt, or in a case where he claimed ganav and it turns out that he's the ganav, then all agree, irrespective of whether he swore or not, we trigger the process and he's fully chayiv. Also Rav Gamda. So Rav Gamda went along. V'amr l'shmata kamei the Rav Ashi. He presented this distinction of Rava, when yeah, when not, right, to Rav Ashi. Amr lei, so Rav Ashi wasn't pleased. He says, so you mean to say that if the shomer admits guilt, then even though it was post Shavua, he'll still have to pay? Is that what you're saying? Amar le'hashto, Umar Rav Hamnuna. Let's go back 2 steps. Rav Hamnuna was the one who asked the kasha from the fellow who swore Sunday, Monday, remember, 5 times in a row. And Rav Huna was a Talmud of Rav. Umar Rav Huna Talmud the Rav. V'yadodam of Rav. Hoida. Rav Huna was a Talmud of Rav. And apparently, the fact that he asked from that Mishnah. Let's remember, what was the kasha from that Mishnah? He swore once on Sunday, and then on Monday, then on Tuesday. Each one is a separate liability. Why? Mishnah explained, because theoretically, the claim is still theoretically alive. How could it be alive? If, should he admit at this point that he swore falsely yesterday, so theoretically the claim can still be there, in which case today's denial is a fresh new denial. So clearly you're telling me, one second, so that was the kasha, but 1 second. It's not a monetary denial, because once he made his shvua, it's over. That was Rav Hamnuna's kasha. Again, how could you, Rav, say that once you make a shvua, it's over? The Mishnah indicates otherwise. Even though it's post shvua, the claim is still very much alive, because it can be maida, right? So Rav Hamnuna asked a kasha. V'kamoisav hoida. He asked from that case of the Mishnah, where we treat the new denial as a fresh new denial. It's considered a kfiras mamayin because of the fact that he could be maida and undo yesterday's shvua. And he considered that to be a kasha on Rav. What do you mean? Shvua, it's closed case. So apparently, Rav Hamnuna understood that Rav's principle, Rav's concept, that shvua closes the case, is even in a case of haidah, meaning it preempts any further liabilities, even if the person himself should come forth and admit. That's how Rav Hamnuna apparently understood Rav, and that's why he asked from that Mishnah. Well, in that Mishnah we see otherwise, that even after the shvua you can be maida. Va'at amras haidah. Now you're telling me, you Rav are telling me, Rav Gamda, the name of Rav, that Rav's idea does not apply to a maida. If he makes a shvua and then he comes around and admits, even Rav agrees he has to pay. Rav Hamnuna did not understand Rav in this manner, otherwise he wouldn't have asked this kasha, because that Mishnah is speaking about haidah, totally different story. But Amr haidah loy, Rav doesn't apply his halacha to haidah. Amr li Rav Acha Saba Rav Ashi. So Rav Acha Saba responded to Rav Ashi. No, that's not a kasha. Truthfully, Rav's halacha does not apply to maida. Meaning, if he makes a shvua and then he admits, of course he has to pay. Rav is only saying that you can't trigger a new liability in the Bezdin, through the official channels, through the Eidim, because the official channels are closed. Once the fellow made a shvua, closed case. But if he himself self-admits, of course he's chayiv. It's not like he actually paid the money, right? But nevertheless, Rav Amnuna had a valid point. He knew that in a case of self-admission, Rav would not apply his halach. But he still had a kasha from the Mishnah with the multiple, shvuos. And it goes like this. I understand that even after Sunday's shvuah, he can still be moide. That's true. But that's not sufficient reason for us to consider this second shvuah a shvuah to officially deny a monetary claim, because the official monetary claim has already been rendered dormant through Sunday shvuah. Look, theoretically, if Adam come today and prove him wrong, does he have to pay? Well, according to Rav, not. So then, that's it. In the official context of this formal court case, it's over. There's no more claim to speak of. So Monday's shvuah should not increase his liability. You're right. If he himself decides to self-admit, of course he has to pay. But he was speaking about official channels. He was speaking about Bezdin considering this claim to be alive. It's no longer alive. In terms of Bezdin, they don't relate to this claim anymore once he made his shvuah. If Rav's concept is true, that shvuah closes the case. That's all he meant to ask. So again, you're right. Technically, if he's moide on Monday, that Sunday was a false shvuah, of course he'll have to pay. Rav agrees. If he's moide, of course he comes forward and he pays. But he was speaking about official channels. Officially, this case is closed. This claim has been laid to rest due to yesterday's shvuah. If Adam will come today and try to impose payment, of course he wouldn't have to pay. So then, how could you consider Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesday's oath a shvuah on kfiras mama? There is no longer a monetary claim against him. That's the essence of Rav Hamnuna's kasha. That's a valid point. Okay, let's just see the words inside. The amris b'shleim nishba ki asu edem mechayev. It's all good and well without Rav. The Mishnah would work well without Rav. If you would say that even after a shvuah, Edom come, you have to pay. That explains the Mishnah. That's why mechabinin lekarban ashvuah basraisa. So we trigger the karban, meaning he's liable to all the ramifications of the second shvuah, Monday shvuah, which comes after Sunday shvuah, because the claim is still active, it's still alive. Because technically you can admit and reactivate the claim, because again, officially the claim is still here. In fact, if the Edom would come, he would have to pay. That explains why Monday's shvuah is considered a shvuah pertaining to a monetary claim. Eli Amros ki also Edom pata, but according to Rav, that after Sunday's denial and shvuah, Edom can no longer obligate him. It's over. Case is closed. In the official records, there's no mention of his case anymore. So how could you say? How could it be a case? The ilu asi sadi masadi be pata. If Edom would come today and try to obligate him and prove him wrong, he wouldn't have to pay. And we're going to go and apply a carbon because he made another shvuah. Shvuah on what? On thin air. There's no more claim against him. Because theoretically he can, if he wants, re-trigger the liability by admitting. Bottom line is, did he admit? No. So practically there's no claim against him. He didn't admit, nor can we even impose obligation on him through the Edom. So it's over. His denial is a non-denial. His shvuah is a non-shvuah. There's no monetary claim against him. That was the kasha Rav. And then we had to answer what we said before, that we're speaking that the shvuah was not an official shvuah, it was outside Bezdin, etc. Okay, so bottom line is like this. Take the shvuah and leave him alone. That's Rav's interpretation. And it's only a very specific case. First of all, if the shomer claimed they never had the item or lost the item, that's number one. Number two, it was followed by a shvuah and an official shvuah in the Bezdin, imposed by the Bezdin, and then followed by Edom. So once you have this whole package, we say he's patur. But if he himself admits, or it's a tayin tanas ganav, which means that the Shomer, instead of alleging that it was lost, alleges that it was stolen, and turns out he himself stole it. So even if he made a shvua in the Bezdin, once Eidim show up and claim that he stole, he turns into the Ganav and he pays kefil. Here comes the next Gemara. Amr Rav Chia bar Abba. Amr Rav Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yehuda. Hatoyin tanas Ganav b'pikad. That's our case. He claims the item was stolen. It's been discovered that he stole it. Mishal tashlam kefil. He pays double like any other Ganav. Furthermore, here's the Chiddush. Tabachu machar. Let's say he did the shchita on this animal that he stole or he sold it. That triggers the Bava Kamma payment 4 or 5 times as much. Mishal tashlam Bava Kamma. Why? Hoil. We treat him like a regular Ganav. Hoil v'Ganav mishal tashlam kefil. Just like any other thief pays double. V'tayin tanas Ganav, and this pretend Ganav also pays kefil. Mishal tashlam kefil, as we've just established. So furthermore, ma Ganav shu mishal kefil, just like a standard Ganav who pays double. But if he's Bava Kamma, what happens? He pays 4 or 5 times as much. Mishal tashlam Bava Kamma. After tanas Ganav v'Gad, likewise, a shomer who turns into a Ganav. Kishu mishal tashlam kefil, Bava Kamma mishalim also tashlam Bava Kamma. Asks the Gemara, how can you compare the two things? You're sort of learning one from the other, but mal Ganav shekei mishal tashlam kefil lebishvua. A regular Ganav has an advantage, so to speak. The person steals and he's caught red-handed, he pays double, even without him making a shvua to defend himself. You don't need that shvua element involved. Ganav as opposed to a shomer turned Ganav. The only way he pays kefil is if he made a shvua to defend himself, right? So perhaps he's at a disadvantage, and you can't really learn him from the regular Ganav pertaining to the other halachas of Bava Kamma. So how can you make that equation? Amri, the answer is Hekesha Huhi. It's a hekesh. The psukim are situated next to each other. The regular Ganav and this shomer transformed into a Ganav. Ve'ein mashivan al hekesha halachas. We don't challenge the hekesh. We connect them fully, and we apply all the halachas to the Toyin Tanas Ganav. Now, Hanichel Amand Omer, that's only according to the Shita that learns the psukim like that. Chad beganav, one pasuk there is about a Ganav, v'chaim b'Toyin Tanas Ganav, the other pasuk is about a Toyin Tanas Ganav. Shabbos, so we see a clear connection, a clear equation. Elul Amand Omer, according to the other opinion, which we had back in DAF Samach Gimel. Ha yim yetza Ganav. So the part of the pasuk which speaks about the Ganav being discovered, v'im lo yimatza, the part of the pasuk that speaks about not being discovered, they're both speaking about a Toyin Tanas Ganav. A shomer who turns into a Ganav. V'tarvayu b'Toyin Tanas Ganav. So there's no mention there about a regular Ganav. Michael Amos, then you don't have this equation anymore. You can't connect it to. Amri, the answer is, it says Ha-Ganav, right? Extra hey, Ganav. Ha-Ganav tells you, oh, this shomer, who's really Ganav, is a true Ganav. With all the trimmings. He's a regular Ganav. We treat him as such with respect to Kefil and Dalad Veh. Eis becomes a kasha. Eis Rechia Ba'Abba, the Rabbi Yehuda. A Toyin Tanas Ganav pays 4 or 5 if he does the Shchita, if he does the Mechira. Hey, Chan Sheri, we have a Mishnah. Where's my ox? Nignab, he says, sorry, stolen, Mashbiach Chani, I'm posing a shvur on you. V'amar Amen, he says, sure. Ve'edim Eden Oisoi Sha'achle. Edim Oisoi, they testify that he himself ate the animal. That's a Toyin Tanas Ganav. Mishal Tashlam Kefil, so he pays double. Why only double? He shechted, right? He's eating the animal. Apparently he shechted, we're assuming. He stole, but he's careful with the kashrus, right? How do you get a kazayis of flesh, of edible basa without shchita? So he did the shchita. Why is he only paying kefil? Uktani mishal tashlum kefil. Tashlum kefil in, only double, but not, tashlum dalad v'heloi. That's a kasha Rav Yehuda who says that a ganav and a Toyin Tanas Ganav are treated equally. My skin says the Gemara, we're going to find all kinds of situations where there is no tvicha. He ate the animal as a dead animal, meaning he didn't do shchita. Why do we have to resort to a nevela? It could have been an animal that's a treifa, meaning they had an internal wound, a critical wound, and then he did the shchita on that. And since that shchita does not really produce proper results, it doesn't really enable the animal la'achila, so it's not really called a proper shchita, and that would be the chiddush of the Mishnah. That's not considered a shchita. There's no dalad v'hei. Why don't we speak about that? And says the Gemara, Rab Meir. We're assuming the Mishnah is like Rab Meir. Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rab Meir. The Amar shchita she'eina ruya, even though it's a shchita which doesn't really produce desired results, it doesn't really enable the flesh la'achila. Shema shchita, it's treated like a regular shchita. halachically is regarded as a maser shchita, in which case it would trigger dalet v'hei, and therefore he said it's an avela without shchita. Why speak about a fellow who ate something non-kosher? I'll find you a case where he ate the basar without shchita, and it was permissible. Ben pekua, an animal found inside the mother's stomach. So the shchita of the mother permits the offspring as well. So it's permissible without shchita. Because he's going like Rabbi Meir, the Amar, ben pekua ton shchita. A fully developed fetus needs shchita even though the mother was shechted, so there's no permissibility without shchita. Asks the Gemara, why can we have a very simple case where the Toyin Tanas Ganav did shchita and he's still exempt from Dalet V'hei? Why can't he answer like this? Why? The Ganav was caught red-handed, and the Bezdin issued their ruling. Go ahead and pay pay back the owner. It's a pretty, pretty official conclusion. Go ahead and pay him. And what happens then? The Amar Rabba tells us a chiddush. If the Bezdin issued this absolute verdict, say like go pay him. At this point, if the shomer proceeded, instead of returning the ox, rather to the sheichet, to shechted, tavach machar, pater. You know why? My time. Given the paskel milse, once the Bezdin, the court, issued their absolute verdict, here, go return the animal. But tavach machar, and he went, and instead he did the shchita. Habi gazlan. That turns him from a ganav, a clandestine, a thief, to a gazlan, an outright robber. Right? Because he's actually taking that animal that the Bezdin instructed that he return to the owner, and he's defying their instructions and doing a shchit. That's a gazlan. The gazlan like mishalem tashlum b'chamish is no din of kefil or dal v'hei gazlan. That's because they said tzeitinli. It was a pretty clear-cut conclusion. Go give it back. But let's say they would have told him chayiv atalitinli. That's it's a notch lower. You're chayiv. So there, they didn't really, conclude 100% that you have to actually give it back to him. You're obligated. It's still sort of like, not concluded 100%. So here he still maintains his title, his status as a ganav, his earlier status. The ganav went and did tvicha mechir on the animal. Chayiv, now he has to pay the al-v'hei. Why? My time of kol kamad le'psikali milsa. Because until they actually paskin that he has to return the animal, akati ganavu, he still retains his earlier status as a ganav, status unchanged, and therefore when he does a tvicha, he pays the al-v'hei. So that's a simple solution to this kasha. Rabbi Yehuda says that a toyin tanas ganav pays kefil, or if he does shchita, he pays dal v'hei. So why over here wasn't he paying dal v'hei? The answer is because he turned into a gazlan. Simple. What do we have to speak about? A fellow eating a vela, which is not kosher. The response was like this: according to you, I have another terrorist, another possibility. Lishanali, he could have answered b'shutav shetabach. Shaloi midas chaveri. I have another case where a shomer, a ganav, did shchita, and he's still potter from dal v'hei. Let's say the animal was stolen by two partners in crime, and one proceeded to do shchita on the animal without his partner's consent. That's called like a goinev achar aganav. He's stealing from a ganav, his partner who's a ganav. So in this case, Rashi brings the Gemara and DAF Ayin Ches speaks about it. If you do tvicha at this point, there's no dal v'hei. That's another case where the ganav could have done a valid kosher shchita and still be potter. So that's another option. Why didn't he mention that? Ella, he didn't go through the whole list. He picked one of two or three possibilities, but of course, all these are valid and working options. So we have the first halach from Rabbi Yehuda, Toyin tanas ganav pays kefil or dal v'hei. Here comes another halacha. Hatoyin tanas ganav ba'aveda, a slightly different variation of the previous halacha. He found something. He found a lost item. He claimed not to have it. It was stolen from him. Turns out that he stole it himself. Mishalem right? It triggers the same process. Mishal Tashlam Kefil, my time. You know why? The Chsiv. Because in those psukim, we also mention a fellow who found an Aveda. Al Kol Aveda, Asher Yomar. He denies it, he has to pay the Kefil. Eis v'Rab Abba b'Mamul Rabbi Chibur Abba. I have a kasha. Ki tenish. Pasuk says, if a man entrusted his friend with an item, right, then he comes around to collect it, fellow denies it, etc., etc. Ein nesinas katan klum. The halacha is, if a katan, a minor, deposited this item, he cannot trigger the process, he can't impose a shvur, and etc., etc. There's no kefil. Perhaps that only applies when the katan was the one who gave it. And he came in to claim it when he was a katan. He's still a katan, so he can't trigger the process. But let's say Nasanak Shu katan. True, he gave it to the person as a katan. By the time he came around to collect it, he was already an adult. Menayin, what about that case? How do we know that the Shemer is pater and it doesn't trigger the whole process? Pasuk begins with the fellow entrusting the item, and it takes him all the way to the bezdin. Right? In the same pasuk, you have both sides of the story, from the giving, from the deposit till the actual litigation. So we see it's all one continuous process. The depositing and the claim and the bezdin has to all be under the same circumstances. Has to be all be given by dealing with a gadol, full adults. Now, if it's true and correct that this process of Toyin Tanas Ganav can be triggered even by an Aveda, a fellow who found the lost item without involving a depositor, right? The mere fact that he's in possession of the other fellow's item, that is sufficient to trigger this whole process of liability. So why is a katan any worse? Fine, he gave it to me as a katan, but now I have his car. It's worse than finding an Aveda in the street. So now he's a gadol. He's challenging me. Forget about the fact that he gave it to me as a katan. Skip that whole part of the story. The fact is, I am in possession of his car. Be it because he gave it to me, be it because I found it. It's the object that triggers the liability. If it's true, let it be like an aveda. He responded like this: you're right. If you would still have it, then we can treat it like no worse than aveda. But that was he consumed it while the depositor was still a katan. It's no longer here. By the time he became a gadol, it's on the speaker. There's no item around. Says the Gemara, okay, avok shu gadol mai, but let's say he would still be in possession of the item when the fellow turned an adult, and then he went and consumed it. Then he went and ate it. Mai, what would happen then? So it would trigger that whole kefil process, because as we said, it's no worse than an aveda. Is that true? If that's the case, adatana. So when the Bryce is looking for liability, why does it say the only way it works is because is where the depositor and the claimer are adults. Listen, it should say like this: you don't need the fellow to be an adult at the time of the deposit. That's irrelevant. All you need is that the owner who's claiming should be an adult today, and the achila should also be when he's an adult, meaning that the shemer consumed it while the claimer was already an adult. That's all you need. Skip what happened during the Nesina. Who cares how old he was when he gave me the item? As long as I consumed it while he's an adult. So he has a full valid adult's claim against me. It's no worse than an aveda, right? Amalei, he says, you're right. Tzni, we can revise the brayso. Skip to Nesina. As long as he's an adult during the tviyah and during the achila, that's sufficient to trigger this whole process of Toyin Tanas Ganav. Rashi disagrees. Loidami, you can't compare finding a lost item and denying its existence to denying the existence of a deposit by a katan. The fact is, when I found a basketball, who lost it? A ben das, an adult. So he's sort of triggering my responsibilities, my liabilities. Even though he's not cognizant of the fact that he has no idea I found it, but the fact is he's the owner, and that triggers my liabilities. As opposed to an item deposited by a katan. True. Today he's an adult, and today I'm in possession of his item, but it's worse than just finding a lost item, owner unidentified, owner unknown. Because over there, wherever the owner is, he's a ben das, and that triggers my liability. But here, what triggered my liability? The desina, the pikatan, the deposit, which took place when he was a katan. So the process was not initiated properly. So here in this case, it will not set in motion the process of Toyin Tanas Ganav. Okay, let's just summarize. We have basically two parts of today's daf, Amud Aleph and Amud Beis. And Amud Aleph we have Rav's Chiddush, right? We have a pasuk v'lokach ba'olav le'yishalem, right? So according to our interpretation, it just means to say that, who makes a shvur? The person who's meant to pay. So shvur exempts from payment. According to Rav, it takes it a step further. In certain situations, providing a shvur is in lieu of payment, and we specify that it only applies in one specific case. Where's my stuff? It's lost. I never got it. And he makes a shvur, and Adam come and try to impose liability, he's done. Case closed, once he made the shvur. But in other situations, such as Toyin Tanas Ganav, where is my thing? Oh, it was stolen. It turns out that he stole it. So even if he made a shvur, doesn't matter. That's what the pasuk speaks of. He pays the kefil. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's the Amud Beis sugya. It takes him to kefil, and theoretically even to dal behei. Should he do ktvicha mechira? And the Gemara concludes that even applies to a Toyin Tanas Ganav ve'aveda, but regarding a katan, we have a difference of opinion. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.